What's going on, good people? Happy Thursday to you. Welcome to the Pro Fan Talk. My name is Marcus Thomas. We are live on A2D Radio. What's going on? It is over. We are officially in the off season, trying to process everything that has just happened, had just transpired, that just took place, and that nastiness that was the game down in Tampa Bay. It was ugly. It was shameful. It was putrid. We still can't tackle. We got all of these questions now, and it is, yeah. So it's not not fun whatsoever. So, but we are here, and we got to deal with it. We are officially in the off season, and everything that comes with that. Everybody and their mama want Sirianni fired, and I get it, and I understand it. So we'll see what's going to happen, and it looks like we will find out probably sometime tomorrow. Anthony, what's going on, my guy? First out the limo. I appreciate you, bro. Yeah, man. It's a. You know what? No. I'm not gonna say it's a mess. It is not a mess. We just got a couple questions, big questions that need to be answered. So I'm not gonna call it. I'm not necessarily gonna call it a mess, but the next move better be the right one. I'll say it like that. The next move by Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman, I'm going to take Sirianni off the table because it's his neck that's in the noose. So the next move they make better be the right one because there's a lot riding on it. We are basically at a crossroads for a franchise. Well, I'm not going to go so far as say it's crossroads, but this move will determine if our Super Bowl window is almost closed or if it'll remain halfway open. We are still under that window, and I'm saying that specifically because next year, if everything goes the way it should go, we should still have three of the best weapons in the NFL. Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith, and A.J. Brown. Now, if something in that trio gets messed up, we're going to revisit this and we will have a legitimate problem. But we're not there yet. So we're just getting through what we saw. You know what I'm saying? And it was it just wasn't good. It just wasn't good. And the problem was, again, the Eagles, we had no answer for the blitz. And my problem with that is we knew without a shadow of a doubt, we knew what was coming. And if you know what's coming and you still don't prepare for it properly, to me, that's a problem. Because you can't tell me that NFL professionals did not watch tape of the last time we played them and didn't understand that Todd Bowles was going to blitz. Because if you're telling me that they understood that, Nick Sirianni, Brian Johnson, they understood that. And they formulated that offensive game plan for that game. If they understood that and that's what they came up with, I got a problem with that. Here's the other part of it. If they did prep for it correctly and Jalen just wasn't making the right calls, that's a problem. I don't necessarily believe that because I got faith in Jalen. I think that based on what I saw last year, how he led us to the Super Bowl, and people quickly, very quickly forget that point. Because nobody, and I mean nobody, would have ever thought Jalen Hurts would have progressed far enough to take his team to the Super Bowl. Nobody ever thought that. At best, we were hoping that he would be good. At best. Nobody saw that coming. And to me, what that tells me is Shane Steichen got the most out of his quarterback. The MVP last year was not Jalen Hurts. The MVP was Shane Steichen. Because now we can see the drop-off. And now we can talk about little things that we don't see on our offense anymore. Creativity, screens, all of that kind of stuff. James Monsanto, what's going on, bro? We don't see that anymore. So you look at the difference. Nick Sirianni is the one that said his fingerprints was on this offense. He said it, so I'm going to take him at face value. And what that means is I'm going to put it on him. Brian Johnson is not exempt, but if it's his offense, if I need to borrow your car to go up the street, but you forget to tell me there ain't no gas in the car, that's on you. Or you could at least warn me, and I'll get you some. But I at least got to get to my destination first. So I don't know. That's what's so confusing about this whole Brian Johnson Sirianni thing. It's his offense, but Brian Johnson is calling the plays. So you mean to tell me at no time during the week when y'all was doing film study, nobody bothered to correct the hot routes that we haven't been running all year? I'm curious about that. I do find it hard to believe that NFL coaches would go into a game plan against a team and a coach that is known for blitzing a lot and not call any hot routes. So I want to know what they did have drawn up for that. Can you blame it on Jalen just for not making sight adjustments and all these other buzzwords that people throwing out there? Sight adjustment seems to be the more common word now for people that either didn't play football or just listening to somebody else because they said it. Yeah, you got to sight adjust. But at the end of the day, there's also signs and signals and doing a whole bunch of different things that you can let your receivers know, hey, it's a hot route. Or if some teams are good enough, they don't even have to say anything. It's on the receiver to recognize when the blitz is coming. And your second step off the ball, you should be looking for it. So I don't know where this blame lies. And if I don't know where the blame lies, I'm going to give it to the head coach. Something happens on your team. If you don't know who did it, the coach got to take the blame. Your kids got caught out after curfew. What team you play for? Who's your coach? That's the way it should go. So I don't know what Sirianni was thinking. And let's just say Sirianni did hand the keys to Brian Johnson. If Sirianni is the offensive mind and he saw what Brian Johnson is doing and he saw that it wasn't working, why would you let it continue? So again, it's going to fall back on the head coach. So what say you, Anthony? The blame goes to Jeff and Howie because they always handsy about everything, especially analytics, and always tell the coaches who to hire as OC and DC and handcuff everyone from coaches and players because I know Brian Johnson and Desai is not Sirianni's pick of coaches. Okay. Fair point. Definitely a fair point. If he didn't want Brian Johnson, I was under the impression that he did because Brian Johnson had been with him a couple of years and he was comfortable with him. Not necessarily for the situation with Jalen, but he had been there long enough so Sirianni was familiar with him. So I thought that the Brian Johnson hire was Sirianni's because my guess is this: Brian Johnson and Denard Wilson. Sirianni didn't want Denard Wilson. And to me, that played itself out because of how quickly he got Matt Patricia in the building. So to me, the optics of it says Sirianni didn't want Denard Wilson, somebody that was brought up in the organization, and still would have been a couple of years away from going after a head coaching job if that's what he wants. So I'm curious about that because it seems like to me they kept the wrong guy. They should have let Brian Johnson go and kept Denard Wilson. But maybe Denard Wilson and Sirianni didn't get along. Like, I don't know what that relationship was. It could be a whole bunch of different things. But I'm curious, did he fight for Brian? Did Sirianni fight for Brian Johnson? Did he fight for Denard Wilson? Or, to your point, Anthony, was it Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman calling the shots on that? Because if it was, I'm sure, obviously they had something to do with it. But is it a situation where you looking at Nick Sirianni like, is he fighting for this guy? Like, because remember what the situation was with Doug Peterson. Doug Peterson was fighting for his guy. And that's where the turbulence came in, and that's what they asked him. And I've said this before, in my opinion, when you look at everything that happened with Doug Peterson, and you look at the timeline, I believe, and this is just my opinion, I believe that Doug Peterson thought he had leverage to ask for his guys because if you remember the timeline, all the other teams had made their hires. So basically, Doug is thinking, if they don't give me what I want, I can threaten to walk. They're not going to let me walk because they're not going to get anybody because everybody already made their hires. That's what I think Doug thought. He had the leverage, and you would think he was correct. But when he flew down to Miami and met with Jeffrey Lurie, conversation didn't go too well. And the next thing you know, Doug Peterson was out. Now, this is how we get to Sirianni. Sirianni wasn't a top choice. We was looking at scraps after that. So I don't know if Sirianni wowed him in the interview. I don't know how that came about. But it wasn't. You remember how Philadelphia was when we hired Nick Sirianni? And this, I'm talking about before the first press conference. We were like, who is this? Nobody else was available. And Lurie and Roseman was catching hell because of the way it played out. So you can put this on Howie. That's fair. You the GM. I call Howie Roseman the Wizard of Philadelphia. He can do no wrong in my eyes. But he whiffed on the coaches. He got a pretty good batting average with drafting and players the last couple of years. Coaches, that average is dropping a little bit. Rob Povia, what's going on, bro? So we got some things to figure out. So no, I don't think we're quite at a crossroads yet, but we are very close to it. Very close to it. So if you saw the poll, I think Nick should get a year. I'm 50-50, really. If they keep him, I can understand why they keep him. If they axe him, I can understand why they cut him, why they fired him. But here's the thing, if they keep him, right? If they make the decision to keep Nick Sirianni, but get rid of, well, you ain't got to get rid of it. They're going to get rid of the coordinators. Why would Desai stay after what they did to him? Why would he stay? So he's gone. Matt Patricia gets in there. He's worse. And Brian Johnson, why would he stay? He's going to get fired. So Brian Johnson is the one that don't have a choice. So if Nick Sirianni, if they keep him, you're going to have to get a new coordinator. And I already heard stories that they got Frank Reich as a consultant, helping them pick coordinators and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, if you're going to do that, why don't you just see if Frank wants the job first? And maybe they have done that. I don't know. Maybe Frank doesn't want to go backwards. Maybe he wants to be a head coach. That's why he's not taking that job. I don't know. But we will find out hopefully tomorrow. What up, Chucks? What's good, my guy? So I don't know what Sirianni is going to do. I don't know what Howie's going to do. They got to make a decision. Because right now we are here. Now, I saw a thing yesterday that said that they were supposed to wait till next Wednesday to talk. And I was like, if they wait until next Wednesday, then they're keeping Sirianni. Then the reports came out today that they're supposed to meet tomorrow and make some decisions. So it is my opinion that they're going to figure out what they want to do tomorrow. And if the reports are true, I heard Big Seal say this today. And if he is correct that they brought in or they are consulting Frank Reich on who they should hire as a coordinator, then what that tells me is Frank is not going to be a coordinator, and Sirianni is going to stay. Or else, why would they even want Frank's influence? Frank's influence comes from Sirianni. He's pulling that string. You already know their history in Indianapolis. Sirianni running up the fans, talking smack, talking about that's for Frank. And so you already know his loyalty and his relationship with Frank Reich. But I say, if you're going to go through all of that, get him the job. Pay him. And if it don't work out for Sirianni, Frank can pick up the pieces right there. Because it is not out of the realm of possibility that whatever changes they decide to make, what happens if midway through the season next year, it still ain't looking right, and they decide to pull the plug? Who's going to be the interim? That's a pretty good plan if you ask me. But I'm guessing. I don't know what Frank's going to do. I don't know in what capacity he's consulting. So because to me, what's the difference between what they're doing now and what they did with Patricia? Patricia was supposed to be in here as a consultant. He was supposed to help with the defense. And even back then, Sean Desai had to know the writing was on the wall, because you don't pull the carpet from people like that. When they trying to do a job, because number one, you done undercut him. Now his voice has no power. And number two, that's going to make him look even worse the next time he goes for another job. Because what do you think is the first question folks going to ask him when he's sitting in another owner's office? They want to know what happened. So it doesn't make him look good either way. But you know what? I give him credit for not rocking the boat and keeping his mouth shut, because he could have got up out of there and blasted everybody. And the way it ended up, people would have believed him, because it got worse. But it was interesting. I don't know if y'all heard Slay's comment about it. Slay said, when you got two guys to come in like that and you bring in another coach, he said that's like having two wives. You can't manage that. You got two different styles and philosophies and schemes going on, and that's hard to navigate. And just like I would say the same thing on an offense, it is ridiculously difficult to learn an offense. Now, I would think defenses are a little bit easier, but you still have a high level of difficulties to know what you're supposed to be doing. Because if that was the case, every time we get a high draft pick on defense, they would be in their plan, because they would automatically know what they were supposed to be doing and where they're supposed to be. But just like on offense, you got complexity on these defensive schemes, and everybody don't pick it up right off the bat. So A lot of that stuff is going to fall on the coaches, and it's going to fall on how good are you at explaining what you want to do to your players. That is no different. When you was in high school or when you were in college, who was your favorite teacher? And you got the best grades in that class with that teacher because for some reason, that person could explain things to you in a way that you understood it. Some people were blessed with the gift. They get all the knowledge and information. Some people got to explain it to you a certain way before you get it. It ain't no different in football. If you got a good teacher or a good coach, they can take you to the next level. I say our window is still half open because of the weapons that we still have. And for whatever reason, like we just went off a cliff. We just went off a cliff. So, I don't know. But I know all three of them boys is out. And I would say if they keep any of those three, Desai, Patricia, or Brian Johnson, if they keep any of those three, to me, that's a problem. Now, the other thing we're going to find out is if we do get two new coordinators and Sirianni stays, immediately, he's on the hot seat. Next year, he is coaching for his professional career in Philadelphia. Because now, regardless of what happens, we're going to find out what he knows about the offense. We can all go back to how the offense was being run in 21. And then he finally hands over the play calling to Shane Steichen. And then we kind of take off. And then we was praising him. Oh, good job with Sirianni. It took a lot of guts to give up that position, especially when you're an offensive guy and this, that, and the other. So we praise him for that. But if Brian Johnson still has if he's using your blueprint and you can't see what's going wrong and you can't correct it, to me, that's a problem. That's my biggest thing with Sirianni. If the offense is your baby, your offense, and it ain't running right, it's up to you to fix it. You should be able to know why it's not running right. If you go back and look at our tapes, everybody, even last year, we talked about this. Last year, we talked about no motion. Nobody went in motion. And we talked about no hot routes. And a few other things. The screens, the bubble screens. I'm sick of beating that dead horse. But we talked about no hot routes last year. And the one thing you can count on is if a receiver is open, he going to let you know. How many times you seen a receiver go down the field and his man slips or they get caught in busted coverage and you see the receiver like, yo, I'm open. And if he throws the ball, he's going to get it. If they miss the open receiver, what does he do? He's throwing his hands up in the air, jumping up and down. So a receiver will let you know when he is open. But if you look at those situations, Tampa Bay blitzed us 60 times, over 60 times in that game. And if you go look at them blitzes, how many times were the receivers looking back for the ball within the first 5 yards? We got away with one, that deep pass, not deep pass. It was a short pass. It was a quick, skinny slant. Devontae Smith breaks the tackle and he almost takes it to the house. That was on a blitz. And I don't know if we just got lucky because Devontae's skinny slant put him right where the guy came from on the blitz. And to me, I always was under the understanding that was the rule when you dealing with a blitz. you throw the ball from where they just came from because you know nobody is there. And Devontae almost took it to the house. And I believe there was one more play. I haven't had a chance to go back and look at it, but I believe there was one more play that we beat him on the blitz. 2 plays out of 60-plus blitzes that night. So as an offensive coach, Sirianni, you got to look at that. You should have been looking at that before it even happened, before it came to the game. And that's to me, that's inexcusable. So I'm not sure what conversation, excuse, explanation he's given Lurie and Roseman for that. Because that's, to me, that's the biggest thing. If you look at it, even as much as we complain about the offense, the bubble screens, the lack of creativity, the no motions, all of that kind of stuff, and all of that stuff is legit. All of it was legit. But I believe 9 games out of 12 this season, we scored 25 points or more. So we were putting points on the board. And it wasn't like defense was helping. Because a couple of them games, the Redskins, the Cardinals, a couple of them games were against subpar opponents. And we put up 30-something points, and our defense couldn't stop nobody. Our defense couldn't have stopped Colorado the other night. It was that bad. Prime would have had a chance to score against us. Because we have forgotten how to tackle. What's up, Don Don? So let me pause right here and let's go. Let's pay this bill real quick. Hold on, where we at? I always lose these stupid things. All right, let's go to the billiards.
Royal Billiard and Recreation, proudly celebrating 40 years and our new, bigger showroom.
Twice the size and twice the fun.
More pool tables by Olhausen. More dartboard sets, including custom reclaimed backboards. More bar and kitchen stools that can change a room.
And more bars, including pre-built and custom.
Hot tubs, skee ball, shuffleboard, outdoor,
and fun.
Royal Billiard and Recreation, your ultimate game room store. Now located on Bethlehem Pike in Colmar.
Now, let me see. Talked about that. Was there something else coming up? Oh, yeah. I wanted to deal with this because I've been hearing about this a lot, so hold tight. So, I keep hearing about this, about how people are upset because Jalen has not been as vocal and as outgoing in his support of Sirianni. And my response is Jalen has been pretty much the same all the way through this. Don't change now. Don't change now. So, because I understand the way he came across. Like when I asked him about Sirianni, and his comment was, I didn't know he was going anywhere. Like, is that a thing? I understand what he was saying. At no point have you heard Jalen come out and give a rah-rah speech about anything. Not about AJ, not about Devontae, not about Dallas Goedert or Swift or anybody. It has always been about playing to a standard. So don't all of a sudden get bent out of shape because he's not going overboard for Sirianni. And then some people had the audacity to talk about, well, Dak Prescott, that's an endorsement for your coach. And I'm like, yeah, but you cannot, and I hate when people do this, you cannot put somebody else's or your personality on a player. You can't do that. And you can't judge somebody based on what you would do. When you get yourself in that situation, you have an opportunity to make that decision. Go for it. But until that happens, Jalen needs to be true to himself. If he ain't never came across like that as a rah-rah and going to the nth degree for Sirianni, he shouldn't have to. Because if he badmouthed them, it would be 10 times worse. It would be just the opposite. So, like, I get tired of people. They want him to say what they wish they could say. And that's not fair to him. So don't do that to him. They already get everything messed up and misconstrued anyways. You can just look at the situation that happened with A.J. Brown a couple weeks ago. He was doing the right thing, keeping his mouth shut. Because the minute you come out and you try to blast everybody, that's a problem. So what do? Man, just keep it in house, keep your mouth shut, and keep it moving. And that's exactly what he did. And everybody started roasting him for it. He didn't want to talk to the media. He's fracturing the locker room. And I was like, where did this come from? So one person wrote an article. Then you see it, and whether it's true or not, if there's other people that just want to think that or piggyback on that, almost like clickbait, they'll run with it. So a problem gets created when there was none. Nothing has changed with A.J. Brown or any of that. We all knew A.J. Brown was frustrated with the coaching. I can read through the lines. Anybody that has coached a team or been a part of a team where you didn't like what your head coach or your position coach was doing, you can read through the lines in situations like that. So, no, I didn't expect A.J. Brown to throw everybody under the bus. You know what he did? He did the same thing all players do. It's on us. We're the ones on the field. They can't. He gave a player's version of coach speak. That's what he did. But he did it in a way where people was like, I appreciate A.J. Brown for the transparency. And come on. You know good daggone well he wasn't trying to run a dang bubble screen in that situation. He didn't want to. They don't want to run the play. So, yes, he was mad that Devontae got hurt. But he was more upset that they called the play in the first place. Don't get it twisted. All these Marcus Hayes and these guys that go in that locker room, and just because you in the locker room, you think you know everything. And I keep trying to tell people. Because now former players that are in the media game are forgetting what it was like. They forgetting where they came from. They are not going to tell you everything. Because you with the enemy now. And all it takes is one time for somebody to take something and roll with it. And you like, I didn't say that. But, nowadays they'll write the stuff because nobody can challenge them on it. So, Don, you already know, bro. They always coming hard, the Philadelphia media. But I understand, like, the whole situation with Kelsey. With Adam Schefter coming out with the report that he told everybody he was retired. And Kelsey was straight up like, I didn't say that. And I could see how somebody could hear what he was saying and misconstrue it. Don't. Everybody and their mama got a tape recorder. You can tape and you can record exactly what he said. You don't have to guess anymore. You don't. We did a better job of getting it right back in the day when everybody had a tape with the mini cassettes in it, a real recorder. Now you got digital. The clarity is 100% crystal clear. And they still get it wrong. The easier it is for you to get good information, it seems like the more people screw it up. But I was angry for Jason Kelsey because however he wanted to do it, wherever he wanted to do it, with who he wanted to do it with, it should have been on him. Period. Just like it's unwritten rules in the locker room. Right? It's unwritten rules in the bullpen, in the dugout. I'm sure there are unwritten rules when it comes to journalism and media etiquette. It should be an unwritten rule that if you got a player that is going to retire or make a massive change in his life, the press, the media should be off limits. They shouldn't be able to write about it. I know there's no way you can enforce that, but still, that should have been his moment. And Schefter, and I like Adam Schefter, but he screwed it up. But it's hard to, I'm still mad that he did it, but I understand because that's the era that we're in. I'm part of this media thing now too. So he stole his moment. It's like if you know, I used this example yesterday. If you were to get engaged and somebody you don't even really know goes out and tells everybody before you get a chance to even tell your people, you'd be pissed. That's what Schefter did. He stole the moment. He stole the moment. So it's almost like, what was the girl? I can't remember. I'm blanking on who it was. Somebody, it was one of the Olympic athletes where they got cheated out of a medal. The person that won the gold medal got busted for steroids or whatever it was. So the second place team got the medal, and they got the medal late because, of course, they had to do all the, the investigation and stuff like that. But you got to think about it. When you in the Olympics, you're doing everything for that moment. You want to stand on top of the podium and have them put that gold medal around your neck and play your country's anthem. That's the moment. That's what everybody remembers. Not that you got the gold medal in the mail 6 months later. You missed the moment. The moment is what everybody wants. And a lot of times, nobody wants to be right anymore. They just want to be first. They just want to be first. Happened last night. I read the report from Diana Rossini about the Eagles meeting with Sirianni meeting with Roseman and Lurie, and they trying to figure out the coordinators and all of that whole thing. So I was like, oh, that's hot. So I'm trying to put together some content for my channel. 5 minutes later, she basically retracts it. She was like, oh, no, I was wrong. They're not meeting, not right now. So you just have to wait. And it was like the minute somebody puts that stuff out, nobody vets it. And you just roll with it. It's crazy. It is crazy. So, Don, that's what I want to know. But that's something that we'll never find that out. They're not going to, we'll never find that out. But it's funny how you got so many of these sources close to the team or something like that. And it wouldn't surprise me that, because you know how much money Adam Schefter makes. He gets paid. So what would it be for him to slip some kid that's cleaning towels $1,000 and say, hey, if you hear something, let me know. If it turns out to be true, I'm throwing in an extra $500 for you. That to me is not out of the realm of a possibility. As easy as it is to hide information, and people got burner accounts and fake Twitter accounts and all that kind of stuff, it can be done. It could easily be done. So I don't put nothing past nobody. But the thing I like, and this is another get off my lawn moment, because I'm old. Back in the day, if the media said something about you, they had to see you face to face. You had to put your name to it. So if you got something to say, I'm going to see you in the locker room eventually. You couldn't hide behind that. So, all right, hold on. We're going to hit Carlino's, and then we're going to hit the Hat Jaw.
In our family, food is our daily bond. My nonna, affectionately called Mama by many, found solace and joy in the kitchen, sharing her love through delicious creations. She turned her culinary passion into a flourishing business alongside her husband and sons in 1983. Celebrating 40 years is a testament to our exceptional team, friends, family, and beloved customers. With gratitude, we look forward to the future, expanding our brand to share the highest quality Italian food and wine nationwide. Our heartfelt thanks to everyone who has played a part in our story. Grazie mille.
Hats.com is the premier destination for quality and fashion-forward hats and more, with designs for every style and trend. Locally based and run by Philly sports team fanatics, Hats.com can help you elevate your hat john. Utilize the easy-to-use guides at Hats.com to find your perfect size and style, and shipping and returns are free. Hats.com. Find yourself in a hat. Use code Philly for 15% off your order. Hats.com.
Hat John. Appreciate that, David Gates. The one thing about Jalen has been very stoic. One of the things that I was kind of afraid is kind of happening, because I've been hearing all of the talk about, like I mentioned earlier, with Jalen not coming forth and being a little bit more aggressive in his support of Sirianni. But with the way the last half of the season ended, the one thing I thought that was going to happen, and it looks like it is happening, is people are getting fatigued of his monotone style. And I'll say it like that. Any of my classic hip hop heads that know about Gangstar and Guru, you'll understand what I'm talking about. We are getting tired of his monotone style. He got to come with a little bit more enthusiasm. You don't have to go off the handle. You're not going to go from Jalen Hurts to Fletcher Cox or Brandon Graham. But you're going to have to be a little less cryptic and a little less philosophical, and be a little bit more optimistic and plain Jane. And I'm saying plain Jane, make it plain, make it crystal clear. Leave no misunderstanding. A lot of the questions that you get, because it's very easy to, if you don't want to answer a question, you're not going to answer a question. It is what it is. But sometimes there's no need to be cryptic. There's no need. I know what the standard is. Everybody knows what the standard is. And everybody knows by now what happens when you don't meet it. You get your butts kicked. So sometimes you got to be a little bit more expressive and not be so cryptic, because you don't have to be. Football is a game that's not really that complicated. You know how you lost. You know how you won. When you make the plays, you win. When you don't, you lose. It's that simple. It's almost like remember that whole situation with what's the girl? Dang it, not Erin Andrews. What's the other one that's on Amazon that they were trying to cancel her because she said she made up reports? Dang it, what's her name? Somebody put it in the chat. You know what I'm talking about. But anyways, everybody got all up in arms about, that's not honorable, and they had all them type of things for her, and she was like, if she couldn't get over there to talk to the coach, sometimes she had to make something else. And as soon as she said that, and I heard the podcast, not Erin Andrews, is the other one. What's the girl that works on Amazon? Dang it. See, I'm gonna look it up and y'all gonna come with it. Not she's on a podcast with Erin Andrews. Let me see. Amazon Sports. Amazon Football Crew. Carissa Thompson. Thank you. Oof. Carissa Thompson. She caught all of that heat because she She told a story on a podcast about something that she did 2 years ago. Now, mind you, she ain't been in the game. She hasn't been the sideline reporter for 2 years. So she was telling something that she did years ago, and everybody just lost their collective stuff. And then you think about it, when you're trying to catch a coach going into the locker room, if a coach is losing and you ask a dumb question, and I'm sorry, in my opinion, a lot of those questions are dumb questions. Coach, you're down by 21. What do you got to do? And if you see some of the looks that those coaches get those sideline reporters, that you already know. So a lot of that stuff is fluff and unnecessary. So if she was to make it up, ain't no big deal, because you know what they're going to say. Yeah, we got to stop turning the ball over. Once again, we talking about coach speak. You know exactly what they're going to say. They're going to take 30 seconds to say absolutely nothing. Something that you could have figured out by simply watching the game. I don't need you to tell me that as you're going into the locker room and you don't want to talk to me. You're trying to get in there, deal with your players, and figure out a plan for the second half. You don't want to deal with this nonsense. And they force it on people. And it's fake. You already know what the coach is going to say. They're not giving you anything of substance, but they got to do it. And I'm saying that to say, with Jalen Hurts, you got to make it plain. Don't fall into that trap where you got to be cryptic and people get fatigued with that. You don't need to hear all of that. Just make it plain. That's why I like to listen to. If you notice, he doesn't talk much, but when he does, he's straight to the point. He's not long-winded. Get in and get out. Hassan Reddick. He is not looking for media attention. You ask him a question, he's going to answer it. But he will make it plain and leave no misunderstanding on what his intent and purpose is. But again, that is a personality thing. So I don't want to put that on Jalen because he's not Hassan Reddick. But what I would like is Jalen to be a little less cryptic and not talk about the standard so much. I know what the standard is. You're not playing up to par. But tell me what you thought about the man dropping your pass that hit him in the hands. So, you can do that, and that'll get a little bit, should get a little bit easier the older you get in this game. So, yeah, Mike Tomlin don't play that game. 100%. 100%. But the one good thing about Mike Tomlin really ain't cryptic either. He's straight to the point because he really don't like to talk. So let me answer your questions. Let me be as truthful as I choose to be. Let me get in and get out. And that's the benefit of Mike Tomlin. He ain't mincing words and he ain't playing around. So, you get it. You get it. So, the next couple of days, I'm sure, and I'm guessing that Jason Kelce is probably going to have some type of an announcement after we find out what's happening with the coaches and all that kind of stuff. Because you don't want to cross the streams in a situation like that. And plus, not for nothing, man, Jason Kelce's still processing all of this. I don't know if you caught the New Heights podcast. He couldn't even, just talking about it got him emotional. He had to take a minute. Just thinking about that process. That's how I know he is probably going to retire. But that is on him to announce it in his own way. You can already, every time you try to talk about it, he gets choked up. The only reason you're getting choked up is because you know what's coming. So I would imagine that Kelce is probably going to make that announcement after whatever announcement that Roseman and Lori make about Sirianni. Because I don't think it's a weird scenario. I think I said this, I believe I said this last week. In my opinion, the reason why we didn't lose that locker room, the reason why that locker room was not fractured was because of Sirianni. Sirianni has that personality. It's hard not to like him if you're playing for him, because he's one of those stereotypical loyal Italian guys, and like he's got that whole thing going, fiery and talking smack to people in the crowd, and always go to bat for his guys, that sort of thing. And players love that. So when everybody's talking about Nick, I believe they love him, and they'll run through a wall for him. And you can't say that about all the coaches. So from that aspect, you do have a good one. And I do believe that is the only reason the whole locker room situation didn't implode. Because it'd have been very easy. It'd have been very easy to throw Slay under a bus when that whole situation about tackling came to be. Because he was dead wrong. Dead wrong. And it also shows that as much as we think, or as much as we would want our players in this city to know every nook and cranny of Philadelphia history, most of them don't. How you gonna talk about Seth Joyner like he just some dude that you never heard of in this city? That was red flag number one. And I was like, dude, after you said that, the more you talk, the worse it's gonna get. You already know. So he didn't do the minimal amount of homework. He in our ring of honor. Dude, some things you just got to know. You got to know your personnel. You got to know your history. And that's the problem now. And I've said this before, all of these players got podcasts now. It's one thing. I like New Heights. I like to watch Barrett Brooks' new podcast. I watch Baldy all the time. I watch the O-line committee. I'm watching these podcasts where I can learn something. Inside the Birds with Jason Avant and Cosell. You want to learn something? Watch Cosell. That dude studies film like nobody's business. Baldy studies films a lot, but Baldy will give you plays. Cosell, that's his job to watch film. Baldy is going place to place doing the commentating and stuff, so he watches a lot of film, but nowhere near as much as Cosell does. So you can learn something. And that O-line committee, you can learn something from them too. Because they talking about when you're on the offensive line, giving calls, when you get certain calls, what you're supposed to do, the real nooks and crannies of why players do what they do. Because a lot of times a player will look bad and it's not their fault. So there's a lot of intrinsic small things that most people don't even know. What'd you say, Dave? The way Fletch and Jordan talked about my tender agree. Maybe we just need some great coordinators like Roman, Reich, Slowick, Denard back as DC. Why would Denard come back? I've been hearing that a lot too. Why would Denard Wilson want to come back here after they didn't? This goes back to who fired him, who let him go, who gave him the news, and who was fighting for him. If either way, if it was Sirianni that didn't want him, why would he want to come back and work for Sirianni? If it was Howie Roseman that decided to go in a different direction, why would he want to come back? If they already passed you up. So I don't know. But I know this. Next year, we all know Sirianni's in the hot seat. Dave, you're right. Money talks. You're right. But all year, Sirianni's in the same situation now like Joel Embiid. Look at what Joel Embiid is doing right now. He is killing it for the Sixers. And you know what? I don't care. Because I'm not going to be concerned until we get to the playoffs and he get past the second round. So he can dunk on everybody every time he on the court. If he don't get past the second round, it is all for nothing. Right now, Joel Embiid is playing like a legit MVP, and nobody's even close to him right now. He could go back to back. If he keeps this up and stays healthy, nobody cares. It's only going to matter when we get to the playoffs. That's the situation Sirianni is in right now. It's only going to matter next year, so everybody's going to be riding him all year. He's going to be micromanaged. Every time he coaches a bad game or if we lose a game, everybody's looking at him. All knives are out. And that's what he's got to go through because of what happened this year. He didn't take care of business this year. So he was in the hot seat when we had that slide. The last half of the season, all those games we dropped, he's going to catch heat for that because he's the head coach. But next year, you're going to have a new coordinator. You're going to have a new D coordinator, offensive coordinator. So everything's going to fall on you. So you basically turn the heat up in your own seat. Last year of his contract. So this is where it's all about. No more excuses. So that's a good thing and a bad thing because you know where you stand. You know where you stand. It ain't going to be no backdoor stuff. There's no misunderstanding. If he doesn't coach well next year, if the Eagles are not good next year, he's out of a job. Because you can't put him in the same category as McCarthy. McCarthy, they just caught the wrong team at the wrong time, and they got blasted for it. But what we put on the field was absolutely god-awful. Brian Daly, what's going on, bro? What's up, Derry? Big decision after not a good time. It is what it is, man. This is the nature of the beast right now. Everybody can't win the Super Bowl. If I was Jerry Jones, I wouldn't have kept McCarthy, but hey, that's his toys to play with as he sees fit. You know what's funny with the whole situation in Dallas? I remember years ago when you really first started seeing Jerry Jones' son. What's the son's name? Stephen Jones. You started seeing him in the box. And now Stephen Jones looks like Jerry Jones did when he first got in there. And every time you see Jerry Jones, he just looks more decrepit. E-Money, you want to fire Nick Sirianni? What happens if he stays? Then what? Matter of fact, put that in the chat. What do you expect out of him if he stays? And if he goes, who do you want? That's the one thing. Heck, we didn't even get into that question. If you're going to kick him out, you got to find a good replacement for him. Do you want Belichick? I don't. Because Belichick wants GM control. Now you got another fight for who you going to draft and all of that kind of stuff. Do we really want that headache? Because Howie's his batting average in drafting has been pretty good the last couple years. He been going to the All-Star game last couple years when it comes to his draft picks. Do you want somebody messing that up? And not for nothing, our window is still open. Derry, you must have missed my conversation earlier. I didn't think he lost the locker room, no. And I don't think he lost the locker room because of his personality and the relationships he built in there. Were people upset at what was going on with the coaching? Yes. But there is a big difference between having a fractured locker room or losing a locker room and you being pissed off because the coach ain't calling the right plays. Big difference. And the reason why we didn't lose the locker room is because of Nick Sirianni, his relationships that he built with those guys in there. Not the least which of the captains, Brandon Graham, Jalen Hurts, Fletcher Cox, Jason Kelce. Their voices matter. Their voices matter. And somebody like Jason Kelsey, somebody like Fletch, very difficult to hide this Dane. Very difficult. But at the end of the day, once they make their decision on what they're going to do and who they're going to keep, once they make that decision, and then give it some time, and then people going to get cut, released, then you'll probably hear some stories about people talking about what happened while they were here. I can see that happening. And we might get some more clarity about what was going on in the locker room. And, maybe it was fractured. I didn't see it that way. I didn't see it as the locker room being lost. But that's my interpretation on the outside looking in. Because, again, like I said earlier, the players in the locker room ain't going to never tell you everything. So every time one of these journalists talks about sources, I'm with A.J. Brown. Who did you talk to? That's what I want to know. Who did you talk to? Because if ever somebody in that locker room found out that somebody was a snitch and going to the press and all this and all of that, that would be a problem, a big one. So I think the locker room is good, but at the end of the day, regardless of what happens, like it or not, you get paid to play. And guess what? Everybody want them game checks, and everybody want them playoff checks. We got a lot of them last year. We got one this year. So, I didn't mind seeing AJ at a fight and all that kind of stuff. Stuff like that don't bother me. Because I know what the thing was. It is what it is. You're not going to please everybody, nor should he have to. Because at the end of the day, he was one of the few people that every time he was on the field, he put it down on the field. So you know what? And I said this a couple weeks ago, if that's what diva behavior is, I'll take some more of it. You got 1,400 yards out of that diva receiver. And that's after he had like 4 games where he was way under 100 yards a game because we wasn't throwing the ball to him. We bitch, moan, and complain because Jalen was trying to force the ball to A.J. Brown. Always trying to get the ball to A.J. And it's like, hello, y'all do remember that this is the same A.J. Brown that just broke a historic NFL record. Something that has never been done. That A.J. Brown. Yeah, that guy. I want that diva behavior back. So if that's what you get when you tell your quarterback, I want the ball, yeah, I want more of that. I want more of that because everybody can't do that. Quez Watkins can't do that. Oz can't do that. Brandon Ayuk can't do that. You name any number 1 receiver. There's not a lot of them. Randy Moss could do that. Jamar Chase can do that. A.J. Brown can do that. Debo can do that. Get me the ball because I'm a playmaker. I need the ball in my hands. And when you're not getting it to me, you're putting the team in jeopardy. I believe that. I did that in college. I used to look over and, hey, coach, patch your stuff. Come on, coach. And you know when they can't nobody stop you, can't nobody stop you. Keep feeding them until they stop you. Justin Jefferson, absolutely. Absolutely. There's not a lot of people that can say that. So when you get somebody like that, give them the ball, man. Give them the ball. You see, everybody benefits from that because don't nobody want to lose, man. 100% correct. He said his fingerprints are on that offense. I'm going to take him at his word. That's simple. So, yeah. So, and again, my problem with Sirianni is if you saw what the offense was doing, or if you saw what they were at least trying to do, and you didn't make any adjustments, none. You got to do better than that. So, he's on a hot seat all next year. And it is what it is. So, now we enter into draft territory and combine work and all of that kind of stuff, draft analysis, and everybody's going to be on Howie Roseman's case about linebackers, rightfully so. Got to draft a linebacker. If some way, shape, or form we get Trotter Jr., Philly would go nuts. Philly would go nuts. If they can figure out a way to draft a number one linebacker like Trot Jr. I saw in the exit interviews and all that kind of stuff, I saw Nakobe Dean was still in the boot. I thought for sure he would have been out of that by now. So I think Nakobe Dean might be just one of them dudes with skinny ankles. Some people born like that. It might be a genetic issue. That's just what he born with. Like, I didn't realize until I was an adult, and when I was playing ball, we had one of my captains on the Eagles, Kenny Rose. He was our special teams captain, but Kenny was ripped. Kenny was into martial arts and stuff like that. And that dude was like ripped. And he was the one that told me about when you see guys that are really tapered and that real muscly look, and he said that look is because they got small joints. He said, look at their joints, knees, waist, elbows, arms. That's just the look. You got big muscles and small joints. It looks good, but if you're trying to perform, that's when you get people that pop stuff out, sprains, slight tears, all of that kind of stuff. And if you ever looked at those guys that just genetically, they don't have big calves, a lot of times they have really thin ankles. And I'm saying all that to say maybe that's Nakobe Dean. So we'll see. We're going to learn today. So, all right, let me get off this thing. I done went long enough. We about rolling at an hour 10. So good chat tonight, man. Y'all been fire tonight. But I guess we're going to find out what's going to happen tomorrow. Or maybe they're going to wait a little bit longer. My guess is if we don't hear anything by tomorrow, my guess would be that they are not. I don't think they're going to fire him anyways, but if you're going to make a move like that, you want to get it done ASAP so you can go on with your search. So I am predicting that Sirianni will not be fired. So, all right, I'm going to give me something to eat. I appreciate you guys. Do me a favor, man. This chat, the last 3 weeks, man, the chat has been absolutely fire. So next Thursday, 7 p.m., be right here. Bring a friend. We're going to keep this chat thing going. We're going to keep it going because we got a lot of stuff going on. I ain't even ready to talk about the Sixers yet. I don't want to. And then they had the nerve to talk about pitchers and catchers are still going to start getting ready for the Phillies. And I was like, no, stop. I haven't processed. I can't even begin that process until after the Super Bowl. So, all right, I'm going to get up out of here, man. Brian, I appreciate you. Dave, I appreciate you. Anthony, I appreciate you. Derry, I appreciate you, fam. Big Moose, live as usual. Good show tonight. E-Money, I appreciate you. Chucks, I appreciate you. We had a good night tonight. Don, fire as usual, bro. So I'm going to get up out of here. I appreciate you guys. And I will see you next week. If we have some news pop up in the middle of the week, check me out on my YouTube channel, Pro Fan Talk. We're going to keep it moving. All right. Peace from the mothership. I will see you next Thursday. Don't forget, bring a friend.